Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year and welcome to the first video of 2021. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to reset your life for 2021 or in 2021. If, like me, you lost your way a little bit last year whilst trying to adapt to this kind of new normal, then hopefully this video can help you and equally me to reset for this year and make the best out of a quite tricky and trying situation. If you're new here and you like things habit building, seasonal eating and living sustainably, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss another video. I will also be offering book recommendations throughout this video, but there will be a corresponding blog post in the description below. Okay, grab a cup of tea, coffee, water, whatever you like, and let's get straight into the video. So the first thing I want you to do is to write down your intentions for the year. I am personally choosing intentions over goals this year for several reasons, although there is nothing stopping you from doing both if you want to. You could set overarching intentions with smaller goals that are steered by or informed by your intentions. It's completely up to you. So instead, this year my intentions are to enjoy my work, to become a more compassionate person, to look after myself and to learn. While it may seem odd that these are not very specific and therefore seemingly unmeasurable, what they do is provide an infinite amount of space to continually improve, because what I'm working towards is a feeling, is true value in my work and life, and the simple joy of trying to improve it every single day. If you haven't seen my video on how tiny habits can change your life, you'll see how I focus on small incremental changes through these tiny habits that flourish and transform into so much more than you could possibly have imagined. When you combine intentions with tiny habits, you'll find that you no longer need to set goals because you'll enjoy the journey so much that there will never need to be an end point. And it's the end point that I have personally struggled with. So I choose to set intentions and then create tiny habits to go along with those intentions rather than goals. I talk more about these habits later on, or you can flick through the timestamps if you want to see it now. So the second thing I want to talk about is I think that it's so important to have a full admin day that is dedicated to your health. Of course, a general admin day is really great, but that's kind of a given. So I wanted to add something else as just a reminder or an inspiration to have another admin day that is just focused on your health, or even just an admin morning. 2020 was a year when I think everyone began to question the state of their health in particular. I've never seen so many people out running around the parks of London, or cycling instead of driving, and showing up to their gym classes on the common instead of inside when gyms were closed. And yet there are so many appointments and checkups that people regularly forget to attend or even book in the first place. If you're 25 or older, have you booked your smear test? Have you had an STI or STD check recently? When is the last time you saw the dentist or hygienist? These are all terribly boring, but incredibly important life admin tasks. They should be a priority and you should put aside time to get them done, checked, booked in, etc. If you haven't seen my video on 100 healthy habits, then I would highly recommend it. It's got lots more ideas and reminders about checkups and things that you need to make and appointments and other ways just to live a more healthy lifestyle. I'll leave it on the screen and in the description box so you can check it out after this video. Okay, the third one is to write down habits that you would love to build into your life this year. Now these habits should be linked to your intentions. So for me, I've got 4 intentions, so I'm going to have at least 4 tiny habits. So if we take my intention, for example, to learn, this is a very broad overarching intention that I have for the year. So to make this happen, I'm going to employ certain tiny habits. One tiny habit, for example, is I'd like to read 5 books a month. But that doesn't sound very tiny, does it? So what BJ Fogg suggests in his book Tiny Habits is to take that habit and, as I said, make it tiny. So by making 5 books a month tiny, what I'm going to do is commit to reading 1 page a night. Next, I will anchor this habit to something I already do that naturally fits into my routine. Each evening I do my mobility on my bedroom floor, then get into bed. As soon as I get into bed, I will read my 1 page. There's my anchor. For you, it may be something in the morning or afternoon. It's important to find a place that it fits naturally. And equally, it's important to switch up your anchor if it's not quite working, so you can find something that does work for you. Though of course you may question how 1 page a night will translate into reading 5 books a month. The whole point of a tiny habit is to allow it to grow roots, and on its own it has the ability to transform and grow exponentially. The important thing to remember is that if you find it overwhelming, reading so much once it has grown and transformed, you can always return to your tiny habit of 1 page a night and build from there again. The point of the tiny habit is that it is so tiny and so easy that it's almost impossible not to do. BJ Fogg uses himself as an example in his book, and he wanted to add flossing his teeth to his habit repertoire. It was something that he always found very hard to continually do, so he started with one tiny habit. He would floss one tooth a night. And from there, he eventually got it up to every single tooth. But most importantly is anytime he skipped a day or forgot to do it, he would revert back to his tiny habit of just one tooth a night. From there, he could then build it back up again. The most important thing is to make that habit as tiny as possible and find an appropriate place to anchor it where it fits naturally into your life. The fourth one is arguably the most important, and it's to design and systematize your working environment. You may not know it, but the way you have laid out your desk, the amount of things on that desk and around it have a huge impact on how productive you're able to be. Designing your environment isn't just about what it looks or feels like, but more so how it works. So when designing your environment, you have to consider what functions it needs to provide you to help achieve your habit or intention. Now, the reason why I personally think this is the most important thing that we can do this year is because the majority of us will be working from home because of what is happening around the world. But also it does have a huge impact, and there is lots of research to back this idea up, that it can help you focus more in depthly so that your productivity actually skyrockets. In Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, he references Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer Robert Caro and his rituals around his work environment. Every inch of Caro's New York office is governed by rules. Where he places his books, how he stacks his notebook, what he puts on his wall, even what he wears to the office. Everything is specified by a routine that has varied little over Caro's long career. I trained myself to be organized, he explained. And a little later, he argues that the importance of designing your space to encourage working rituals, such as organizing the raw materials of your work, can help to minimize energy dissipating friction. To maximize your efforts, this support needs to be systematized so that you don't waste mental energy figuring out what you need in the moment. For example, having a completely clear desk except for the things that you consistently use every day. To the side of your desk, you might have a shelf with books that you regularly reference, or for me, I might have a shelf next to it that has all the camera equipment that I will be using on a very regular basis. Designing your environment and systematizing your things removes mental friction and aids in your concentration and focus, leaving space to be far more productive. For this topic, I would highly recommend Deep Work by Cal Newport. It talks more in depth about the positive benefits of deep work and how that can actually basically turn you into an expert in anything that you want to study, but it also does talk about design and systematizing your sort of work area, so I will leave that in the description below. The last two things are pretty simple and probably just reminders for you guys, but the fifth one I want to talk about is deep cleaning your space and decluttering any physical items that aren't getting used. Now, this can definitely go back to if you're thinking about designing your space. A lot of the stuff that we have in our room definitely will be taking up space and mental energy that we just can't afford. A lot of our time and energy has been focused on dealing with the pandemic, dealing with our emotions and how to cope with it, and being away from loved ones. So having a clearer space, designing that space, decluttering and cleaning can have a huge impact, as I said before, of removing some of that mental friction. I would highly recommend listening to a podcast or watching a series or listening to a book while you do this. It's not the most terribly interesting, but it is one of the most important things that you can do. Now, I used to not be a fan of decluttering because all these videos would come out and I'd find them incredibly wasteful. But where there's a will, there's a sustainable way of doing it too. And at the end of the day, if you have things sitting on your shelves that just aren't getting used, this could also be potentially very wasteful too. I want to share with you just a few things that I've been decluttering and how I've been trying to do it more sustainably. So the first thing is books, but only books that I'm not going to be reading again. Of course, there are loads of books that I absolutely love that I dip into every now and again or reference quite often in my videos that I would never get rid of. But the ones that I read once, I know I'm not going to read them again. I simply give them away to friends or family who I know want to read them, and I hope that they pass them on again, or I will give them to a library to donate to. But also my local zero waste shop and my local pub both have reading corners where they love to have donated books too. And the last thing is tech that I no longer use. Now, because of the nature of my job, I do try out a lot of different lenses and camera equipment and things like that. but having them sitting on the side or sitting in my cupboards not getting used just absolutely pains me. So last year I managed to sell 2 of my cameras, and despite the fact that I get most of my stuff secondhand, I still hate the fact that they just sit there if they're not getting used. So I will sell them on, or I'll resell them back to the secondhand places that I buy them from, and it's a really great way to get rid of things sustainably. These are the things that I have tended to accumulate. Your things will probably be different, but don't declutter things that you still find value in. Like some of my books I'll never ever get rid of. Some of my cameras I'll have forever. Only get rid of things that will take up space and clutter up your, work environment and just prevent you from living with a more chilled. Now the last thing is a digital declutter. I've also recently read another book by Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism, and it is another really great book. I really encourage you to take the time to get rid of any apps that aren't serving you. I chose to delete all of my social media apps over the festive season, and I only ended up re-downloading 1 of them out of 6 I had before. If one of your goals is to spend less money this year, then deleting any apps that encourage you to spend is a great idea. I used to have fashion apps, other convenient apps that encouraged me to spend money on my phone, and by deleting them I got rid of one of my most powerful triggers to spend money. Organize your files, content, photos, everything stored on your computer. I now use Notion to plan my life, and it is a absolute godsend. I have everything now in one place rather than on my drive or in my notes or handwritten notes or in various other places in pages. It's all just in one place and it's so easy to navigate. I'm actually going to be creating a whole video on this, so if you do actually want to see it, will you let me know in the comments just so I know it's something that you guys would actually like to see. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're looking for something to watch next, then I highly recommend my video on how tiny habits can change your life, or 100 healthy habits you have to try. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year. I hope it brings you everything that you hope for. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.